Good evening, my friend. Good evening, Ali.
Good evening. Good evening, Fernando. I don't know. It's morning. I think
it's morning. The sun's still not up over here. It's morning time.
Oh, so good morning.
How are you? Everything
I'm
okay?
Good. I'm good. What about you?
Alhamdulillah, everything is good. We're excited about this special episode that we're recording today. Yeah. We have organized a really good virtual round table on the 10 years after the Arab Spring, so this is a really exciting episode for me. How are you?
Yes.
What do you think?
Yes. Yeah, the topic is very important. It has been a very controversial topic in the south and in the north equally, because for more than 10 years.
Right.
The country has been overwhelmed with the crisis and conflict just since the Arab Spring began in 2011 here in Yemen.
Right. To put it into context for our audience, our listeners, our viewers, today this program will be published right before February 11, 2021. It'll be 10 years since the Arab Spring, the youth-led revolution in Yemen, that, part of the uprisings that swept through the Middle East in 2011. And we are going to discuss the framing, the lead up to the protest. We're going to discuss what took place in Change Square, in Tahrir Square as well. But more important, taking it out of Sana'a, looking at Taiz, looking at Aden, for example, the three main protest areas. And to keep in mind that while the media and everyone has painted it as a peaceful uprising, we do have to keep in mind that after March 2011, we saw a number of fronts where the military, allied with former President Abdullah Saleh, clashed with forces allied to the opposition, to al-Islah party, to Ali Muhsin, to the Houthis in Sada. So we saw the fronts in Western Maghreb. We saw clashes outside of Taiz. We saw Adalah, Baydh, and even outside Sana'a, right outside the airport, there were continuous clashes between these two sides. So today, again, we're really excited because we have a virtual roundtable to discuss this. We have invited an excellent group of Yemeni figures to join us. We will have Dr. Abdo, Abu Bakr al-Qirbi, who's the former foreign minister under Abdullah Saleh and during the transition under President Hadi. We have Mr. Amr al-Baydh, a leader in the SDC in Iraq. His father was president of PDRY, involved in the 1994 civil war between the North and the South. We have Nasser Arrabyee, who is a freelance journalist based in Sana'a. We have Mr. Labib Nasher again from New York. He will be joining us to tell us more about his experience and his views on the uprising. And we have Mr. Ibrahim Qatabi, a Yemeni-American in New York, who's also will provide that view from outside Yemen, how Yemeni-Americans or other Yemenis outside Yemen experience the uprising in Yemen, their hopes, the aspirations. And obviously, we will move into the aftermath. One of the main themes that we will talk today it will be the impact of the Arab Spring, of the youth-led revolution, on the structure of power in Yemen. In the lead up to the 10-year anniversary, we're going to see a number of articles being published. We're going to see a number of conferences, think tank discussions, everything on a lot of issues. But what we want to do is we want to focus on the impact the revolution had on the power structure, because that is what we're dealing with today, right, Ali? we're dealing with, multiple centers of power. We're dealing with, new actors, armed, well-funded, surfacing throughout the country. And so we want to see where the Arab Spring started and how it lead us to today. So right now, we're going to welcome everyone because I think everyone is joining us already. We're going to start admitting our good friends into the room. Hello, good morning, good evening, everyone.
Hey, good morning, Fernando, and good morning, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello, thank you very much to everyone for joining us this morning in New York. Labib, Ibrahim, thank you very much.
No problem.
This evening in Yemen with Mr. al-Baydh. Nasser, thank you.
Hi.
Everybody is
pleasure.
Thank you.
Always good.
We are waiting.
Fernando, is that going to be live?
No, my friend. Give me a quick second. I'm letting. Okay. Let's. Ali and I have already introduced our topic today. We are recording, so give me 1 second. Great. We have everybody joining us here already. For our audiences, allow me to introduce each one of our guests today. First, obviously, Dr. Bakr al-Qirbi, foreign minister of Yemen, through the transition with President Hadi through 2014. Thank you, Doctor, for joining us this evening, your time. Mr. Amr Ali, thank you for joining us, sir, from Aden. We really appreciate you. Leader in the SDC. His father has been a leader in Iraq. And long history, and we really would love to hear everything. We can't wait to hear your views, your opinions, and what you've experienced all the past 10 years. Nasser Arrabyee joining us from Sana'a. Thank you, Nasser, freelance journalist. He's been a longtime friend, learned a lot from him. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Ibrahim Qatabi, Yemeni-American in New York. We actually have not had the pleasure of meeting each other in person. It's always been virtual on social media, but I really appreciate you taking us up on the invitation, joining us, and helping us from an outsider perspective almost, yeah, because you experienced this from outside Yemen in 2011, very active. And lastly but not least is Labib Nasher. He joins us again from New York. We had him on the first episode. It was a great conversation. I think he went to grab some coffee, so we're going to wait for him in a little bit. But Ali...
I'm here.
Excellent. He's listening. And Ali, thank you very much from Aden. Ali Mahmoud, our co-host. We introduced the subject, gentlemen. It's 10 years since the Arab Spring, since the youth-led revolution in Yemen. And the reason why we gathered this very diverse, group of guests today is because we want to hear different perspectives from the experiences of 2011, not just Sana'a-centered. A lot of people, a lot of the media that we see today is very Sana'a-centered. We focus on the Arab Spring is always the talk about Change Square versus Tahrir Square, the actors in Sana'a. But what we want to hear from you are the experiences, the opinions from what happened in Sana'a, in Taiz, and in Aden. These very important three centers in 2011. But, what we're most interested in today is the impact on the structure of power. What happened in 2011 with the protests that were led by the youth on on the ground in the squares, but yet we saw the conflict outside the cities, outside Sana'a. We saw fighting outside the airport. We saw fighting in Marib. We saw fighting in Taiz. We saw fighting in Dalakh and al-Baydh. So while the media may have presented this peaceful movement, we also have to understand that the regime itself was in conflict, that with the intra-regime, conflict was there, where there was Islah against loyalists, Ali Abdullah Saleh, Ali Muhsin's troops against Ali Abdullah Saleh's loyalists, and how this started, uprooting the centers of power throughout Yemen, not just in Sana'a, not just the center of authority. And that's part of what we want to hear from you today. What did you see then, and how have you seen that affect or lead up to the conflict today? So if we can start today, Dr. Qirbi, we would love to hear from you first, and your experience, your views on the events leading up to February 11, 2011, and the year of conflict, the year of the uprising in 2011. How can you recall that year?
Good evening, everybody. I'm glad to join you on this session. And let me start, first of all, by reminding you of the fact that you, Fernandez, had already indicated is that before the youth uprising in Sana'a and in Yemen in general, there was already conflict brewing between political powers in Yemen, between the Nasser party and others, and the government at the time. And this was demonstrated by the continuous process of negotiation between the political parties to resolve many of the issues that evolved after the 2006 elections. And at that time, as you know, it was a very competitive elections, but there were demands to reform the electoral system. There were demands for really to revamp the state, overall revamping of the state. And at the same time, there was also demands for political, economic, and social reforms. So there was a battle. There was a hidden, really, instability in the form of, if you remember, the attacks on the pipelines, on the electricity towers, and etc. So there was already an existing instability, I think, which maybe was taken advantage of when the Arab Spring or the youth uprising in Yemen came to existence. I believe really now we have to look at the uprising in Yemen in a different context from other Arab countries for two reasons, or three reasons maybe. One is the Yemen has already, after the unification of the country, has already established the democratic system, the peaceful transfer of power, and which was truly, I mean, in its early stages, but it was there already. And one should have really done everything really to see how we can make it better, how we can embolden the criticism of the government, reforms process, and other things. And therefore, the process for change in Yemen, reform in Yemen, should have been really constitutional, rather than insurrectionists as it is now, as we have seen in the United States of America. But at that time, there were the Arab Revolution or Arab Spring in Tunisia and in Egypt and in Libya, and people in Yemen, unfortunately, the youth and other political parties just took advantage of that situation, believing that this is the quickest way to achieve the objectives of reforms that have not really materialized, unfortunately, as we see at the moment in Yemen. And even worse, I think, of all is that even when Yemen produced the best, I think, political solution for then the conflict that started in 2011 and after 2011 through the GCC initiative, instead of trying to build on it really and stabilize the situation, the transitional period was actually manipulated in ways that did not really deliver the objectives of stabilizing Yemen and enhancing the process of democracy and peaceful transfer of power. So these are the 2 points. The third one is, I think, is that the leadership for the youth wasn't really very clear. They had a lot of slogans, ambitions, but no leadership, no direction, and therefore they weren't able really to continue the process they wanted to initiate, and the political parties came really and hijacked their attempt to reform the system in Yemen. So this is my starting remarks.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much for summarizing your views, your opinion from the events on leading up to the uprising. Mr. Amr al-Baydh from the South, how did the South experience, and mainly, was it an Aden-centric view that we still have on 2011, or did we see this throughout the southern provinces in Yemen?
First, thank you, Fernando, and your respective guests for having us stay with you, and I hope that we have a good talk today. Well, as you know, the perspective is different from our side than from the northern side or the Sana'a side of the whole scene. As you know, we look at it as after 1994, the unity is not there anymore, and Saleh formed his own country, his own system, based on the balance of the classical powers in the north. Then I think he couldn't manage that balance of the classical powers, and then they started by different means. That was as Dr. al-Qirbi was saying, 2016, after during at that time it's called the Liqa al-Mushtarak, as I remember, and as it goes on till the Arab Spring, and they got the opportunity to use that, where we see it is more of a coup, that one of the sides among the political structure that Saleh formed, like for example Ali Muhsin and Zindani and the Muslim Brotherhood, took over and used those people's and youngsters' ambitions to correct the imbalance that was created during Saleh's time after '94. So from our thinking is, everything is totally totally different scene. And as I told you, in the north there was a struggle between how to control the country. It's a power struggle, but in the south was as you know, the southern movement was started 2017 before 2011, with 4 years, and that struggle was to regain the independence of the South Yemen, as we see it, as the unity that the southern was calling for was not anymore there after 1994, and was replaced by an occupation and by the country that Saleh formed by himself and his northern classical powers. So yeah, that's our perspective, and so it's totally different scene. In Aden, it was about struggling to gain independence, and the north was struggles that was hijacked, as you say, by the political and used by the political powers, classical powers especially, to gain power with Saleh. So that's the general scene between the two sides, and for sure it has different reasons behind it. Not only not only because of that, it's because of the decentralization and centralization and the differences of political conduct. But we'll go through that in the coming talks for sure.
Right. So you mentioned Liqa al-Mushtarak. That's the JMP, the Joint Meeting Parties that formed the opposition to President Saleh in 2006 in the presidential election, with Ben Shandlan as the presidential candidate. Nasser, thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Nasser, you are a journalist. You have a totally different perspective from a journalistic point of view. How did you see the developments leading up to 2011 and during the Arab Spring from Change Square and Tahrir? You're still muted, Nasser. Nasser, you're still muted, my friend. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
I'm sorry, thank you. Well, the so-called Arab Spring was a ray of hope, a glimmer of hope, but unfortunately it turned out to be chaos and anarchy, let me say. And we are ending up to this chaos. We are witnessing this chaos until now, after 10 years. So, but this does not mean that people, or it was wrong thing. I was very enthusiastic. I was one of the supporters of that uprising. And I hoped for Yemen to have a state of justice, a state of law and order, and a state of sovereignty and dignity. But this is still not achieved. And maybe now the difficulties we are facing now, and Yemen is facing now, is even more difficult than it was or than it were at the time, because now Yemen is divided not only in two, but into 5 or 6 or so. People are highly polarized. Tribes also are highly polarized, not only between south and north, as I told you, it's within Yemen, the whole Yemen.
But that's the thing, right, Nasser? That's the thing, right, Nasser, that in 2011, in Change Square in particular, around Sana'a University, we saw the tents being occupied by Houthis, by Islah, by Ishtirakis, the socialists, by independent university students. They were all maybe not friends, maybe not allies, because there was still a lot of fighting amongst them inside Change Square. But they had a goal, right? They all agreed on one goal. But today, is it more that, the common enemy, Ali Abdullah Saleh, has been removed? So now, what's keeping all of these groups from coming together now, putting aside some of their differences and trying to reach an agreement? What's keeping them so divided? What is creating this rivalry, this fighting?
I think what keeps them divided is that they never had a unified vision. They never had a plan, a clear plan, also a leadership. But let me be realistic. Vision. The plan and the vision were completely different from the very beginning. Everyone seemed to have been thinking of his own revolution and his own state, his own democracy, not common things that can bring all together and let them stand together for forming and building one Yemen. But everyone wanted to have his own Yemen. This is the only thing. This is the only explanation that we can say, because now they are killing each other now. They are not only politically different, but they are killing each other, and they are loyal to different countries outside Yemen, unfortunately.
Right. Labib, to take on this theme brought up by Nasser, in 2000, you were at Change Square in 2011, as we heard from you during our first episode. You saw what was going on, who was at Change Square, and I don't know if you crossed the line and went into Tahrir Square to see the GPC side, but I was going back and forth to this image of unity in Change Square in 2011, where I walked tent to tent to tent, and I saw what was going on, what groups were Houthi, what groups were Islam, what groups were youth, independent youth, from the university. The Ishtiraki corner, by the juice bar right outside the front gate, what happened to even this image of unity from 2011? It wasn't peaceful. There was fighting inside Change Square, arguing, fighting over the stage, everything. But at least everybody, when it was time to protest, you saw diverse groups going up to the front, to protest. But now, what's happened to that unity?
Good evening and good morning for people here in America. Good morning for you, Fernando, first. Do you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Well, I'm going to start with the reasons. First of all, I know Ibrahim Qatabi, he knows me well, and for the others, Dr. al-Qirbi, who I met him just one time here in New York City on, I think, December 7th, 2000, after the, bad events happened in Sana'a in December 2018 or 19, I don't remember even now. But yes, I was there in 2011 with the people, students from the university and the youth revolution. And I'm totally independent politically. I mean, I never been in any political party before. I never joined like any party to decide going to this youth revolution. I had my like the others. I have my own reasons. I saw a country, huge, big, great country, controlled by one person based on his mood. This is a very important point. I met Abdullah Saleh like 2 times. Nobody can say that this guy didn't like his country or didn't love his country. He did a lot. But the way he was controlling the country was not the right way. People around him, many of them were bad. And that time in 2011, this is just short words. I don't know if the others were with us in Sahat al-Taghyir, but for those who were not there, in 2011, I was a project a project manager for the MENA, North Africa and Eastern Middle East.
Middle East.
Yes, for working for a Swiss company. My salary was that time $6,000. I have residence in Switzerland. I had everything that if anyone was like looking for people who said, oh, those people who went to Sahat al-Taghyir, they went there looking for a job. They went there looking for money. They went there looking for a position in the future. We didn't go there to look for something like that. The real reason for us to went there to change the whole situation in our country. I can talk here like 2 hours, but there is, this episode for not for listening to my reasons why I went there. I just give you a brief why and why we went there as an independent people. Now, the result that we wanted that time is to see democracy in our country, real democracy. When we started there, we formed a committee for people. We called Abdul Janadi. We called Amin Jum'an. We called some people around or close to Ali Abdullah Saleh, and we told them, please, we need only 4 things. Only 4 things. That was in the second week when we started in 2011. We need you guys to, first of all, take the corrupted people to the jail. This is first. Not to reward them. There is a lot of files for people who did bad things in our country. All what you want, all what you need is just take them to the jail. That's it. To the court first and the jail. Second, please change the record for the election. Third, please, let's sit together. You guys in al-liqa al-mush, not us and independent people. No, al-liqa al-mushtarak and al-mu'tamar al-sha'b al-'am. Sit there, talk together, and create a committee, election committee, which controls the, clear and clean election in our country. All right, get the right things. That's all what we wanted. We didn't want to change Ali Abdullah Saleh. And if Dr. Qirbi remember, or you guys, we started saying يسقط الرئيس after the soldiers killed our friends. But in the beginning, we were calling to send people, bad people, to the court to change something. Abdul Ghanidi was laughing at us. Amr Ali, who was my classmate in the high school, by the way, he sent me a message to say, hey, you can get 35,000 Riyal Yemeni to get every single one from this area. And even Al-Azzi Shaif, if I believe that Dr. Qirbi knows him. So only 4 requests, we wrote them in a paper, we sent them, and we told them, I went to Ahmed Al-Ansi, the brothers of Ali Al-Ansi, to his house. I told him, please, talk to your brother, to talk to Ali Abdullah Saleh. Please, let's do the right things in the beginning. Nobody answered us. And they started killing us. And more people came. And then al-liqa al-mushtarak pushed many and thousands people because there was chance. Who gave them the chance? People in the power in Salman.
In this committee that you had, Labib, how inclusive was it, or what were the hopes for that committee inside Change Square? We know that you described this relationship reaching out to the Saleh regime, to the officials, but within Tahrir, within the square, how was it between you guys?
It was a Jami'ah square, not a Tahrir square.
Right, Change Square. Sorry, Change Square. How was it with the relations with the other parties that were participating in the protest?
When we started, by the way, it's good here to mention this for the history. When we start, I was outside Yemen, and when I came in February 3rd, I came direct from the airport to the area because I was watching in the TV. So I saw some of my friends, like engineers. I'm a petroleum engineer in a way, so I saw some of them. And when I called them, they said, let's meet there and let's do something. We were individual, like people individual. No parties, no political parties. Don't ever listen to someone saying that Liqa al-Mushtarak started this. Nobody started this. Small people. And by the way, there was only one guy, the biggest guy between us. He's Ahmed Saif Hashid. I didn't know him. However, he is the parliament member from our area, from Al-Abus. So, that day he just got his salary, and he paid his salary to buy the first tent. And from there we started. Ahmed Saif Hashid in February 11, actually.
If we can,
yeah.
If you can just summarize the issues, because if we go in talking in details about the events, as you said, we will need days really to talk about them on how things progressed. And I think the objective is to define the responsibilities and consequences and the resolution for what's happening at the moment.
No. What I'm saying here, Doctor, is when we started with the good intentions. We didn't start with the bad things.
Yes, no question about
it. Yes. After the delay of response from people in power in Sana'a at that time, the political parties came with a huge amount of people. And then what happened was in their hands, not in our hands. Things took out of our hands as independent people, as a youth. It became like a political issues. People, they taken revenge against each other.
Right.
This is what happened at the end. And one more thing. After that happened in 2013, we tried as independent. We tried to bring them again to the same table. Like we went to Abdul Karim al-Iryani, rahmatullah alayh. We went to everybody. The president of Islah, the president of al-Houthi, the president of al-Mu'tamar al-Sha'bi al-Aam, just to talk to them. We don't want this civil war in the future. Please try to, but nobody was listening. Nobody was listening.
Right. Let me jump over to Ibrahim and hear, his views, how the Yemeni-American community saw these events, developing in 2011. Ibrahim?
First of all, Assalamu alaikum jami'an. Thank you for having us, Fernando, and your Diwan broadcast. So basically the 2011 uprising, the Arab Spring, the Yemeni Arab Spring, to me, honestly, is one of the most beautiful movements in Yemen's history, not only recent history, but entire history. It was one of the most beautiful uprising that it was done peacefully all across the country by youth, by women, civil society, tribes, all joined hand in hand to basically demand a change in the regime. And we're not talking about just reforms like Dr. al-Qirbi was mentioning. People wanted a new democratic system, a decentralized system. As you recall that, the regime was one of the most corrupted regimes by all accounts, and Transparency International and everyone knows it was one of the most corrupted regimes. Not only that, but it was one of the most centralized regimes in the region, where one tribe, one family controls everything. Going back to the Baydh points, Saleh hijacked also the unity. In 1994, when there were, against the Baydh party and group in the South, just to remind everyone, it was not just North-South. Most of the people back then in the South wanted unity. But it was unfortunately was hijacked by the Saleh regime. All the partners in the South were excluded. And so the system, and instead of being a democratic system, that it was, the aim is to ensure that power and autonomy is distributed among all Yemenis from all across, the country, not only one tribe, the Hashid tribe, and the north. And so, the 2011 uprising, as we all know, Yemenis were so proud of it, was like part of the whole process. People don't go into a revolution with just a one demand or just a list of demands of reforms. People wanted a change, wanted a new regime, wanted a regime by the people, for the people, and not by Saleh and his family. As you recall, Saleh wanted to install his son. And that's not a democracy. Saleh is supposed to be out of power 8 years after 1990, right? So if we're talking about democracy, Saleh cannot just be at the helm of power for decades. It's supposed to be a democracy. We're supposed to go into election. President's terms, it's only 8 years, 4 and 4, but it kept going. And so, just to say that it was just a struggle between both groups, the people on the ground have nothing to do with going on between the Saleh parties and the other parties. People want to change, and I think it was just about time. Prior to the 2011 uprising, Yemen have a very strong civil society, right? So there was a lot of movement by human rights organizations, by students' movement. And so there was a good sense of belonging all across the country. Yeah, some folks in the South thought the national dialogue was not addressing their grievances. But the whole point in Yemen, the whole struggle was to make sure that we have a true democratic system, a federal system that will ensure people from anywhere in the country can have access to rights and power, can have access to national resources and their own resources and everywhere. As you remember, Hadramaut and Shabwa and Ma'rib produce most of the Yemen's oil, yet they don't have any basic services. So the problem was, it was the regime, and people needed a change, and that revolution was part of it. But then, Nasser was talking about how now we in a very difficult time, and how that, uprising turned into almost a nightmare. No, that's not the true, framing of the uprising. We know that there was a counter-revolution in the whole region led by United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. And so that's the true problem. They overturned an election and a democracy in Egypt when they installed a puppets that led, by a military means. And so we need to look at what's going on in the region and what's going on within Yemen. Yeah, Yemen, we have differences, we have different agendas, but we all wanted a true democracy. That's exactly what people wanted on the ground. But, when the war started in Yemen, Saleh's regime, with the assistance of Saleh's party back then, with the assistance of the United Arab Emirates, they thought they could overthrow the transitional regime by doing the same thing that was done in Egypt. We knew they were letting the Houthis go all the way in, marching all the way to Aden. Houthis is a group that they think they're better than everyone. They have the supreme rights to control everyone's life. But I don't think it was the Houthis that were doing it on their own. Houthis were used as a cover, but then Hezbollah was directing them, and Iran was helping them to actually capture power. But the point is, there was a counter-revolution trying to overthrow and to stop the development, the outcome of the national dialogue to Yemenis going into becoming a democratic system. That means we're going to have some sort of a powerful, regime going forward. We're going to have economic means. We're going to have political means, and we're going to be part of the region. But, UAE and Saudi Arabia didn't want any democratic system next door. And so they hijacked the whole revolution. And we see what they're doing today, for example, in Aden. And instead of empowering the legitimate government, as they claim they're trying to empower the legitimate government, they actually undermine it by creating new militias. We've seen it in the South to overthrow the government they claim to support. And now, and Mahra, for example, there are about 15 Saudi military bases, and they're not there to attack the Houthis. They're there to basically trying to cut some lands like they did in the past. The hijacking and the occupation right now on Socotra Islands of not allowing the Yemeni government to return. So it was part of what happened after the uprising, after the national dialogue. It was a hijacking by Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates and putting us and making us look to the world as we just poor. We need some sort of humanitarian aid, and that's not the truth. Yemenis need a democracy, and that's exactly what we've been talking about.
Ibrahim, if I may, Doctor, real quick question. In New York, in Michigan, the Yemeni-American community, were they as united? Was there unity in the perspective of what was going on in Yemen during 2011, or did we actually see divisions within the Yemeni community here? One supporting one side or another, etc. How did you see the reaction here from the ground among Yemeni Americans?
It was beautiful. People were united for the cause of the.
I challenge that argument, Ibrahim. I don't think they were united.
I could say it. I could say it. So, just like the Dr. Al-Qirbi think that some of Saleh's puppets in the United States think they somehow it's not.
Why are they puppets and their oppositions are not puppets as well?
Once you support a dictatorship, that's not a democratic demand.
We cannot get anywhere with these dogmatic approach to the problem. So now we are 10 years.
So let me finish. Let me answer the question.
We are 10 years from 2011. So we don't need to repeat the same dogma.
I agree with you, Dr.
And the rhetoric that led to this situation.
Dr. Qirbi, I agree with you. And I remember when you came to New York, you were against the youth-led revolution, and that's crystal clear. The point is,
I wasn't against it at all. I don't know who gave you that impression. I actually was one of those who had dialogue with the youth, and some of the youth in Sahat, because I was aware that they have very good intentions, but they lack the leadership. So, and this is the reason why it was hijacked.
So, just going back, I don't think
it was Dr. Qirbi.
So, just that's a way to distract when you say they don't have a leadership, they don't have demands and X, Y, and Z. There was a dialogue then afterwards. Let's say they didn't have leadership in the beginning, but then there was the national dialogue that brought everyone together. Who hijacked that process?
Where were you at the time? Where were you at the time? In New York?
No, I was back, and I actually attended the first protest in Yemen, and I came to the national dialogue, and I've been following it. It's not about whether you're in New York or not. The point.
Yes, it is. Of course, it is important. People who are on the ground and know the interactions on the ground are much more able to judge things than those who live 10,000 or 15,000 kilometers away from it and rely on what is broadcast from one TV station or another.
This is one of the things, and this is why we wanted to bring all of you, as many representatives of parties as possible, is to bring this view. Dr. Qirbi, we have to admit that the diaspora, the Yemeni diaspora, they've always have a place in such reform movements and everything. I'm Mexican American. The Mexican American community here in the U.S. is essential to democratic reform in Mexico, and so when we, the Yemeni-American community sends billions of dollars into Yemen, not just the Saudis, not just in Saudi Arabia and everything. So I do think that what was going on in New York and Michigan and in Central California was kind of vital. I mean, this is, governments might not like the way that we migrants can interfere in domestic politics, but I think it's fundamental. Ali, Mahmoud, I know you've been listening to everything. What, from your experience as a Adani, in 2011, how did you see it? And you have some questions for our guest.
Yeah, let me welcome everybody, Dr. Qatabi, Ibrahim, Nasser, and Mr. Amr Ali and Labib. Thanks for joining us today. I have, a question for Dr. Qatabi. As Amr Ali said, because we in the south we weren't, a part of it. The youth revolution didn't exist in the south. The south has been on struggle for more than 20 years. The situation in the south was different, as Amr Ali said, was totally different. But since we have this discussion, let me ask Dr. Qatabi, what does Yemen need to get out of this vicious circle nowadays? Let's forget about the details, what happened, but let's focus on now. What does Yemen need to get out of this vicious circle?
Well, thank you. I think this is a very good question. I think this is what every sincere Yemeni has to think about. We are, as Yemenis, are extremely good at blame game. Everybody would like to blame others for the mistakes and will not admit that he has contributed to the situation we are in at the moment. There are many issues that has to be resolved. As you know, as I said earlier, when the youth movement started in 2011, they had the best of intentions, but they lacked direction and leadership. And there were many reasons for that. One of them, of course, is that part of this movement was instigated from outside. And then what we made worse is that it was hijacked. So unfortunately, those who should have taken the stand to see that the reforms and the democratic processes improved and so on were marginalized or eliminated. And this is what has led to the situation. And this was as a result of what? As a result that the alliance that took over, hijacked the process, was an alliance of hate. They hated the regime, they hated Abdullah Saleh. And hate led to the situation that we are in, because they have no common political agenda. They have different objectives. They have conflicts within themselves. And this is what has produced the situation we are in at the moment. So this is now very difficult to rectify, because all these groups have scattered in different camps. Some are pro-Saudi Arabia, some are pro-Emirates, some are pro-Qatar, some are probably pro-Turkey. And therefore, how you bring them together is very difficult. And this is why, at the moment, I think just like the youth in 2011 were calling for reforms, now we have to have a new movement on how to save Yemen, how to get really those who care about Yemen. I think there are issues we know are of concern to us. Saada situation, the southern situation. But at the moment, if we try to resolve these solutions without having, first of all, united ourselves and agreeing that there are issues that we have to settle.
Doctor, is the Riyadh agreement between the Hadi government and the SDC a step forward? Do you see it as a step forward?
Well, I already made a tweet about it the day after, and I said there are so many hidden things in this agreement that makes it very difficult to be fully implemented. Okay, and I don't think that the intentions are sincere between the two sides on implementing it, and this is why we see the delays and the difficulties at the moment.
So you don't see this as a step forward toward reconciliation, toward a peace process?
Well, I look at it if the legitimate government, that's called legitimate government, now implements the Riyadh Agreement in order to have a common and united front to go to the comprehensive political solution negotiations, then step forward. But if it is going to complicate the situation and increase the conflict within the southern Yemen with the legitimate government, then it is going to hinder it.
Right. If you can give me one quick moment.
Very, I think, sincere remarks. And I think what we need at the moment, especially your other members of the group must realize that I am 70 years old. So I look at things in a very different perspective from the way they look at them.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. I see the disaster our country is moving and continuing to move. And unfortunately, there are voices that only raise hate, accusing people who differ with their opinions, and they don't think of the Yemeni, 30 million Yemeni people now who are suffering in every way of life. And yet we continue to talk about objectives that haven't materialized. Everybody you ask in Yemen today will say to you, we are in a worse situation now than we were in 2011. And who says differently to that, I doubt whether his sincerity about understanding the suffering of the Yemeni people.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And that's one of the reasons why I invited you, Ali, and I invited you because we wanted that senior voice and that experience you had. We may not agree on everything.
Thank you, Doctor.
We may not agree.
I wish you well. We are friends and I haven't seen you for a long time. I wish you well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
And we can all work together and see how we can save Yemen.
Inshallah. Okay. Thank you, Doctor. Gentlemen, as I was saying, you know, we may not agree, or you as Yemenis may not agree on everything, but we do have to, you know, consider the different points of view and help Yemen and Yemenis get through different hurdles. My friend Nasser, I'll ask you the same question Ali asked Dr. Qirbi. You know, where do you see the path forward toward in this conflict?
Yemen is still going nowhere, but we could be in the right way, in the right direction, if we think more seriously of Yemen, not of our partisan or our sectarian or our regional interests. So we need to rescue Yemen as a whole, Yemen for Yemenis as a whole, and then secondly, we then think of the second interest, like the regional, like the sectarian, like the partisan, like all these things. So I think that the best way out is always through, as they say. The best way out is always through. I mean that we admit that we are in a quagmire, we are in chaos, we are in anarchy, we are in a problem, in a big problem, in a disaster. And when we admit, all Yemenis admit that we are in this disaster, in this catastrophe, in this quagmire, I think then we will definitely find ways, a million ways to get through and to get through this problem and this disaster.
Before I get to Mr. Amr al-Baydh, can I ask Ibrahim a quick question, because I think he has to go as well. So Ibrahim, if you can give us a quick comment on this question from Ali, you know, where is the way out of this chaos?
So I think we Yemenis need to come together, whether we from the south, from the north, or elsewhere, and we need to come together under a common goal, which is what's the benefits and a better future for all Yemenis. I want to see someone from Aden to control Aden. I want to see someone from Hadramaut to control Hadramaut. I want to see someone from Sa'da to control Sa'da. I'm talking about a federal system for everyone. We need to know what's in the best interest of Yemeni South, North, East, and West, and not to be a puppet for an outside agenda or interest. We know very well that the region doesn't want the best interest of Yemenis, even in the South. Even if they claim to support the Southern movement, it's not for the benefits of people in the South. I don't have any problem with South regaining independence as long as it is going to be an independent and not to be hijacked and occupied by some sort of regional powers. So the interest for all of us, we need to sit and learn and appreciate each other. We need to come up with a system, and I think the system, it starts at the end of the national dialogue, right? That's the starting point. And now we need to think on how to share power, national resources to make sure
But does this come out through the UN process, or is there a need for a different track? I mean, this is one of the main questions.
I think we need to accept each other. I think Yemeni have to start talking to each other and trying and to eliminate the culture of hate and division and and that's supposed to be part of the leadership of all political parties, all different groups within the country. I don't think the UN have ever resolved any problem anywhere. We live in that country. It is our kids, our family members that live in that country. We suffer from what's going on in the country. So we need to learn how to accept each other. We need to learn how to share power with each other. We need to learn how to build a better country for all of us, where there is an equal system, equal distribution of power and wealth, and a system that would ensure someone from Al-Hudaydah become the next president and not only someone from the South or the North. So that's the only way forward. Otherwise, even if you divide the South from the North, we're going to keep going in a cycle of wars and hate, and we killing each other, and we will never stop. The only thing that would stop us and put us in the right direction is by building a system, a democratic, decentralized system, I think maybe similar to what's in the US, where we all can be part of it. We all can build together. We all can create jobs and economy. We all can build urban cities like we see today in Dubai and Doha and elsewhere, all across the shores from north to south. That's the only way forward. Otherwise, we're going to keep damaging our country. We're going to keep creating a true destruction that is not going to help anyone, whether in the south or in the north.
Right. Thank you very much, Ibrahim. Ustad Amr, what do you think? What is the way forward? Is there a way out of this chaos? Is the Riyadh Agreement a step forward? How is the STC dealing with the UN peace track?
Yeah, thank you, Fernando. Well, I think I'll have several comments and different. I'll just go back to what happened at that time. Then we'll talk about the reality, what's happening right now, and what's the solution. What we think is the solution for us and for everyone. I hope. Well, particularly for us, because I don't want to give solutions for others. Like others are giving us a solution that we should now. Unfortunately, Mr. Ibrahim saying that as long as the South is not controlled by others, no, we know the South. It's our country, it's our land. We know what's right for us, and we don't want that dogma again, as Mr. Qirbi was saying, that dictating from the North what's good for us, what's not good for us. So that's the beginning. What happened in the 2011? From 2007, as you know, the Southern movement, the protest was from 2007, the peaceful, but there was different struggles from the South, not accepting what happening in the South since 1994. So what happened in that we didn't get any solidarity from the North, from all the political parties from 2007 till 2011. Then the Arab Spring or the Yemeni Spring, what they call it, the revolution, also came up with the same mentality that they didn't still realize the South, that there is something happening in the South, and they tried to hijack also the perception, the the collective will of the southern people by declaring another political as representing the South, taking it to the what's so called the national dialogue that the South rejected and wasn't represented in it, and even that group was trying to trick it and try to form another group within that group, and we know that the history in that situation. So the idea behind it that no, we want you, but we want you through our lenses, through our perspective, how we see it. We'll give you the solution. We'll give you the vehicle that you have to come to us and discuss your issue the way we want you to discuss it. The way we want us to discuss it, not us, the Southern. I mean, the political parties in the North and the power in the North, the classical powers in the North. At that time, yeah, the Islah wants to have his own, like, yeah, as everyone's saying that the Islah, the parties have different plans. Yeah, for sure. The Islah wants to have an Islamic state in Yemen, as Zindani was saying, to 2021, 2022. But I think on the contrary, the Houthis did the Islamic state in his own version. So it's the other way. But it's the classical powers who took control, how they see it. And unfortunately, even the revolution have even Mr. Labib and Ibrahim, the youngsters, who unfortunately we see that they still trying to overstep the South and saying, no, we'll have a democracy and that's it. But let's come sit on the ground and see what's the reality on the ground. There is totally different angles on the ground that we have to look at it. Not the way that we just look at it from the square in Sana'a. There is a square on all over the South that's saying something else. So that's what happened at that time. Now the from our approach and how we see it, we see that the country that was formed by Abdullah Saleh is not anymore there, and Yemen is shattered. Is not anymore that Yemen that Abdullah Saleh created by his own balance. But the power is everyone is trying to get their own like part of Yemen, and also trying now to get part of the South too. So what we say that no, we have to sit together. We have to sit on the table and discuss the realities. Why all this has happened? Why the South? The problem in the South is not solved yet. And if they say that the South was solved in the national dialogue, then why are we still talking about it till now? So there is a problem. So there is a problem in how to see how we're seeing it. So we have to sit and discuss it and an open table and without condition in a different vehicle, not the one that they designed. We have to all design it together, the vehicle that we can sit and discuss in it. The problem, Fernando, now that they say no, come and let's discuss it under the GCC initiative, under the national dialogue, and we don't approve that. The South didn't approve that even in 2011. We didn't approve that the GCC initiative is the right vehicle for us. And you know that we boycotted the election of Hadi and the South, and there's totally different message, different perspective in the South. So now I think we should sit on the ground, look at it, design together the right vehicle for everyone, how to solve it. At that time there was a military on us in the South, and we are occupied. We can't talk with you guys if you are killing us on the streets. So that was our no. We need different way how to talk and find the solution. Then we can. Sorry, I was a bit emotional sometimes in these issues because it's particular these issues when I see that the same thing we're going again and the same way how we look at it. So no, we have to sit, we have to talk.
No, sir. Yes, no, sir.
Yes, I agree with Omar completely. I couldn't agree with him more. But also I am wondering which South is he talking about? Also, which South are you talking about, Umar? Are you talking about the Tawma or Zumra? Please, Umar, we should be realistic. Please, Umar, I love you. I love Yemen. I love Southerners. I love everyone. I respect you. But now, this is what came to my mind. Also, in the South, there is a problem also. In which South you are calling people to? Thank you, Amar. Thank you, Amar. Thank you, Amar.
Thank you.
Shall I reply?
I would add one thing before I leave. Fernando, I'm going to have to go.
Yep.
I would appreciate what Amr was saying, about the South. I don't think the point is right now about, so we control the South. We're only going to go based on our terms. That's how the Houthi is going to talk. That's how al-Qaeda is going to talk. It's not just because you control, you have a militia or have some groups that now you're going to have to set your own terms. What we need to do right now, we need all Yemenis to come together, not under any kind of conditions. We need people to talk about the future of Yemen, not, we were doing this back in the day, but now we can't deal with it. And let's remind everyone else, the Southern movement that Amr was not part of, it started in 2007 peacefully to be part of the system, to reform, to make sure that it's an equal access to people in the South and the leadership position. It was not about dividing the country. And now the way you claim and you have some sort of power in the South, we know most of the militias in the South right now that you claiming to be thinking about the independence are funded by United Arab Emirates. If they have the rights to intervene in the country, but now we in the South and the North don't have any say somehow, we can't talk about the future of Yemen. Are we repeating the same thing? No. We need everyone to be at the table, from South, North.
Ibrahim Amr is saying the same thing. He is saying that we should come up with new tools.
Exactly correct.
And the GCC initiative, the national dialogue doesn't work anymore. This is our perspective in the South. You have to mind this, please, guys, from the North, from anywhere. This is all tools. The GCC initiative, the national dialogue outcomes, the political cancer solutions doesn't express the perspective of the Southerners. Let's look for new tools and sit together.
So what would that be? That new tool? Ali, what new tools are you talking about? Can you explain to us? What would you recommend going?
Ibrahim, the South wasn't included in the national dialogue. This is the problem. The South wasn't included or represented. Just little or a small group backed by Hadi and his fellows, and took them to Sana'a to represent the South. They ignored the people who are on the ground. This is the problem. So we need new tools. New tools, as Amr said, to agree on new tools, new ways, new techniques, and sit together.
I need to say something here, guys.
All right, guys, look, I'm going to have to go. It was a pleasure meeting everyone.
No. Please, give me a second. So, Ali, now you said that...
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Thank you.
The South wasn't represented in the new government or in the dialogue or whatever. So, do you think that, like, you, Ali, just assuming this, you or people behind you represent the South?
No, Labib. Let's be honest.
Calm down. Okay. Yeah. I'm with you. Just relax.
Labib, we're a bit emotional on these
issues. Because this is something like it's really. I feel so.
Okay, can I say something? One more thing. People, and this is a question also for Amr. People who was born and raised in Aden, and their fathers and parents born and raised in Aden, considered Yemeniyyin ولا Adeniyin ولا لا?
Yes, 100 point, yes.
Okay, and they call them.
We have been saying that. We have been saying that, Labib.
Thank you.
Do you hear some comments from there, or from here, or from there, and you say you are trying to trim?
All right. Okay. Okay. Let me finish. And people who their roots back to Hadramaut, like Fulan al-Fulani Belfaqi, but his grandpa was anyway Arab 48. You just confirm that they are going to be in 100%. I'm one of them.
You are a Southern. Okay. Why not?
I'm one of them. All right. I'm 48 Adani. Now, I have a different. Okay, let me finish. I have a different perspective. Yes. The South has to be represented in a good way and a right way, no doubt. Okay, not by people from al-Qaryah, please. Not by people.
Not from the village. Okay.
All right. Okay. No. Hold on. Okay. Let me finish. Give me a chance. I've been listening to you guys 1 hour. Just give me a second.
I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry.
So this is yeah. Okay. So now people from Zubayt and Al-Galila controlling now everything supported by.
Oh no, this is not fair. This is not fair, Labib.
Okay. Let me. طيب خلينا نكمل يا علي.
Okay.
I'm just saying. Okay. طيب تمام. We've been a victims as Adenis. We've been a victim for all the conflict happened in Aden after English troops left Aden. الحزب الاشتراكي واللي بعده. People always controlling the south, they are from out of Aden, by the way. Now, we have our own perspective. So, guys, I mean, it's not even fair when you say, okay, those people, they don't represent people from the south. We are the people who represent people from the south. So, first of all, and in the end, long story, I'm going to tell you what we have all to sit together at the same table under the most power umbrella in the whole world, which is the United States of America, because what I believe in, I'm not saying that's because I'm here in America, no. But we will never, ever solve this problem if we sit and on the table by our own. Because people in Sana'a supported by Iran, now al-Intiqal is supported by Emirates, some other guys supported by Saudi, and they all in the same level of the power. All of them. Nobody is scared of nobody. The only one who can push all of them to sit together and settle this problem is United States of America. So this is my own perspective.
This is one thing, though, Labib and Mr. Amr and Ali. It's one of the main issues that we see in the debate over the representation of the South, correct? Where in 2011, the protest square in Mansour, for example, it didn't just come out in 2011, as you say. It had been there before 2011. This is the youth from Mansour, from Aden, and from Jaffa and everything that were sitting there since, before 2011. And then we come into 2013 with the national dialogue, and that debate that Labib just brought up, kind of explodes, comes further to the surface. It's like, okay, but we, meaning Iraq in the South, we're not invited to the national dialogue. I was in Aden when Muhammad Ali went to have his conference and at the Sheraton Al Goldmore with Lutfi Shatara, with all of these individuals.
The rest of them,
Makkawi, Khalid Abu Ras from Hadramaut.
Right. So then, this was Muhammad Ali coming back to Yemen to participate. And then what we had in Sana'a at the Movenpick, we had this thing where we're boycotting officially, but Lutfi Shatara can be there, and a couple other people can be there, and Muhammad Ali is kind of not Iraq, but yes, he is representing us, as opposed to people from President Hadi, who's from Abiyan, who he picked, whether they were GPC or something, to create this group that was labeled the South, or people who were in the South panel in the committee on the Southern issue, that Iraqis continued to say, but we did not participate in that. So how do you answer that question for Labib, that on who represents the South, and how can you move beyond saying that someone that has been in Sana'a for 30 years can't represent the South, and vice versa?
For sure. Shall I answer this question?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, see, this is an issue. This is the question that everyone was asking. I think, and there is I think people sometimes misunderstand it. When we talk about the South, we're not representing that. No one is representing the South. This is fundamental issues that we have to state from the beginning. No one is representing the South. The South is not representing only by referendum, by giving the voice, taking the voice of the people. So we have 6 million. They have to represent themselves. How? We know how. Through institutes, through different ways. But what we are talking here is representing the Southern issue, not the South as a whole. There is something called Southern issue, and that's why everyone is talking about the Southern issue. So let's define what's the Southern issue, and when we say that the people who are in like Muhammad Ali and the rest of the guys who try to represent the Southern cause in the national dialogue, it shows that it's different. I mean, the people, the collective will of the people and the struggles on the streets, everyone is saying they want independence, but you bring someone and saying that we don't want independence. So how come you're representing this issue by saying no, we are representing those people, but we are saying something else. So we're not talking about the South as a whole. Like Labib has different opinion. Hadi has a different opinion. He's from the South, and others are from the South, and they have different opinion. But we're talking about the Southern cause. Let's discuss the Southern cause. Let's be precise so we can solve it and decide who. And from our perspective, we say that whoever expresses what is the Southern cause, then he represents it. So this is the idea behind who will represent the South. So because it's always like even Martin Griffiths, when he speaks, he says, there's a lot of components, different opinion in the South. And we say, yes. And he say, yeah, then whom is there to represent? Say, yeah, but you're totally misleading the situation. In the national dialogue, they're talking about the Southern cause. They're not talking about the Southern people. When we talk about the Southern cause, not the Southern people. The Southern people have different ideas, different opinions. So that's to correct it from the beginning, how to see it. And I mean, regarding the issues of the South, Nasser was saying about the Togma, Zumra, saying in the South, we've done lots of work towards that. We had a problem among the South, and that's not because of, and also people in Aden, people in Hadramaut, and that because of the centralized system that we had in the South. We had a centralized system, and we centralized everyone, and everyone is fighting in Aden to get the power from Aden, trying to get the grab of the power, and that caused a circle of violence, and because everyone is trying to get it. And that's, I think, the problem with the South, with the North. When we come to the North, I think we've talked about that many times. That the problem with the North, that they don't accept decentralization. The classical power don't accept decentralization. We've done that in '94 through the وثيقة العهد والاتفاق. I don't know what it is in English. The pledge, I think, initiative.
1994.
Yeah, there was an initiative at that time, and it was mainly about decentralizing Yemen.
Right.
And I think I think it was wrong because we didn't understand the characteristics, the political characteristic of the North. The North doesn't accept decentralizing. The classical power doesn't accept that. But we want to solve our problem in the South.
And this is This is an interesting point that you bring up, because usually we hear that the North had no history of centralization. So now the North is the one that doesn't understand decentralization. In 2000, leading up to 2006, the 2006 elections, there was a talk of devolution. Electing governors directly instead of appointing them, and that would be the first step, and then the local municipality elections. But yes, that is one of the issues that perhaps later on we can bring you on and try to discuss this idea of centralization, even within the project of federalism. Yeah, that was brought up in 2013, 2014, versus your view, and I'm saying SDC now, not just Iraq, but SDC, your view of two regions, two autonomous regions in a confederation type of thing. I have a quick question to ask you still, and Labib, I have one question to follow up right after Mr. al-Baydh. But Mr. al-Baydh, you mentioned that there's a thing of representing the Southern issue and another thing representing the South. That perhaps Ibrahim and Dr. Qirbi have a point that the lack of centralization, the lack of a central leadership, is what kind of led to more conflict and everything. So, if there is no leadership, no central leadership in the South, there is a consensus on the Southern issue, right? But there is no head of the South as of yet, if I read you correctly. Do you think that in itself is a problem, that is holding back the track toward a peace agreement, toward reconciliation? I mean, if today there was a peace, if there was a peace talks called today, who would sit, to represent the Southern issue, and would that group or that person be accepted in consensus in the South?
See, I think that's not a problem if you really want to solve the problem. I mean, that's sometimes it's used as an excuse for undermining the Southern cause. They say, "Oh, there is no centralized leadership, blah blah blah." But do we really need a centralized leadership to solve the Southern cause?
Well, who sits at the table then? Who sits at the table tomorrow with?
As we say, who sits on the table is the one who expresses the Southern cause. Whomever who really represents.
Would she or he be elected by some group? Let's say the Supreme Committee of the Iraq.
No, there is everything is known. I mean, there is since 2007, this group, there is powers was formed from the people inside, from there, representing expressing the collective will of the Southern people in the framework of the Southern cause. So we should bring them. Let's talk. The SEC, what the SEC is doing right now, I mean, the SEC mission right now is that trying to develop a design where we can put the Southern cause in its right position. Then we can bring anyone. STC, not the only one can talk about the Southern cause. We can bring others with us to talk about it. But I think we have the leverage now to design that and to protect that too. To protect that we want to reach that level, because we've seen that. I mean, when we don't have power, they undermined us. They offered steps us in 2011, 2013, 2014, as if we're not there. So that's the role now of the SDC, is to bring the Southern cause in the right position to be discussed. Who represent that? Then that's something else that we need to discuss. Also, we need to negotiate too.
Right. And this goes to my initial question, right, of the theme of the restructuring of power in Yemen since 2011, right, where it's now allowed, the creation of real power, not just authority or anything, but real power that creates this leverage that now the South has, where it has moved from the 2007 peaceful movement of protest to now having we have to admit, military representation since 2015. Aden was liberated not by an army, but by, the population itself being armed and facing the state at the time, whether it was Hadi's state, the Ministry of Interior, the army, or the Houthi Saleh militia alliance, right? So now the South can basically say, we have real power in the militia. Yeah, and I mean, now they're incorporated as security belt or special elite forces, but still, we see them, they wear the PDRY flag. That is a symbol of the Hirak. That is the symbol of, as you are wearing now. It is not the ROY, is not the Republic of Yemen flag. So we see the Hirak or the South.
Those are realities.
Right, on the ground, and we would love to bring you back when you have time and discuss this more into depth, because we really do want to get into these issues. And with Labib, one last question to you, my friend. We've discussed the issue of the youth. And how this was a youth-led revolution or not, co-opted or not. One of the questions that come up during our conversations with other guests is that the youth have technically disappeared from this movement. One guest made the comment that it was interesting to see how so many of the young leaders from 2011, whether it was Taiz or Sana'a, were incorporated into the NDC, into the National Dialogue, and then moved on to jobs. But then they kind of sort of have this bigger distance now as spokespersons or, as activists for other issues, distance from the protest movement. So when we look at this, what is your opinion? Is there a youth movement now, whether it's inside Yemen or outside, that would be able to reincorporate, joined the talk, joined the movement, or do you think that there's a need for a new generation now? It's 10 years. Those 20-year-olds are not 30. Those 25-year-olds are not 35. Do you see a new generation inside Yemen or outside that could come to take on that role?
Well, I think it's always like this. Honest and innocent people started the good things, and the result controlled by the political parties and politicians. Now, we are who've been in the change square in Sana'a or Aden or everywhere. I'm talking about the independent people. We still contact each other. We were there like thousands. We're still like talking to each other, connecting each other, trying to do something. But to be honest, the power that we have are very limited. We are not political parties. We could coordinate with them for a good things or preparing things, or like we are doing now here in United States. We are trying to, in the last 4 years, trying to contact all the Congress, Senate people, pushing them to do something about the Yemen, the situation in Yemen. I know my friends in England doing the same thing. I know my friends in Canada doing the same thing. We all trying to do something for our country, and we are trying to. I cannot say that in the future things will be out of the political parties' hands. No, they're gonna stay there. They're gonna control everything. But from the behind of the stage, we are trying to do many things. Like, yes, we are there. People who were in 2011, we are still here acting as much as we can, but our power is very limited. And we have a good connection with the political parties as well. we have very good connection, to be honest, with the Majlis al-Intiqali, not as followers, but to coordinate for things in the future. All what we need is to gather everybody, all the leaders, in the same table, because 6 years, it's obvious that military and power and the field civil war will not get us to any good results. It's going to continue like this.
But again, my friend, 10 years later, is there an organization? Is there a group that's leading? If just the same question that I asked Mr. Ustad Amr, if there is a call to peace talks tomorrow, who shows up? We brought up Ali Mahmoud and I. We had a discussion with another guest.
Let me be honest. No one. We don't have one organization, specific organization. We are independent.
Yeah, but the leadership. I mean, the NDC, just like we described, was not. Aside from Sadiq al-Ahmar, al-Qirbi, al-Maqawi, all of these individuals who were already political leaders of some sort in some party or another, they were the ones that were there. I was there. I have I've well documented who was there, and then there were the youth. And the gap was like this. And so who sits in the next dialogue? I mean, right now we're talking about peace, about ending the 6-year-long conflict. Hadi and SDC sit together to make peace in Riyadh. Then the Houthis are asking for a peace talks with Riyadh directly, and then Houthis and Hadi. And then the next step is Houthis, Hadi, SDC, and Islah, or how? If I'm somebody that's interested in promoting a peace talks, my first question is, who am I going to bring to the table, and what are we going to discuss? So 10 years after the Arab Spring, are we still talking about the Arab Spring, the ambitions that you highlighted when you first addressed, or are we talking about a totally different environment where now the 6 years of war have changed that? We know that the power structure has changed. So now, has the war changed all of that from 10 years ago?
Well, absolutely. You're gonna call people who have power right now. You will not call people who were in the Change Square like 10 years ago, who has no power now and they are not decision makers. You need the people who, for the decision maker, can change the situation right now. Who have the power in on the ground, like al-Intiqali wasn't there in 2011. Al-Houthi wasn't there in 2011. I mean, in this power. Now they are controlling 75 of our population, and
right.
and 35 of our land. So now,
and also
the equivalent changes. Now, where are the youth? Where are the independent youth who started this revolution? To be honest, we will not be represented in any peace dialogue in the future. Why? Because we are everywhere, but no one can say I represent all this independent youth. But it's okay for us. We need the good for our country. We don't need. That's why we are actually independent. We are not patience to. I mean, we don't have ambitions to get to be a president, ministers, to get any political positions. All what we need is a good thing and a happy ending for this stupid situation. That's it.
Right. Mr. Ustad Amr, I mean, to continue on this line, if there are peace talks tomorrow, I know you're very diplomatic, and I know you want to talk about a potential solution kind of from above, but what is the mechanism now to re-engage peace talks in Yemen? Does the SDC at this point, after the Riyadh agreement, agree that the Houthis and Saudi Arabia, for example, should talk, and then after that, the Yemeni parties should talk? Or is the SDC line still in opposition to that process, to that path?
I mean, basically, our participation in forming the compromise agreement, power shared agreement between us and the government, mainly is because it's use it as a bridge to be involved in the political process that was led by the UN, and to give us a leverage, as I said before, to design the process of how to resolve the southern issue, and that's our main concern right now, and we use Riyadh agreement as that in order, so mainly is to administrate the liberated areas from now till the war ends. But how it will end? It has totally different dynamics. Many dynamics, not different, many dynamics. There is internal, as you know, regional and international now, and even more international, as you know, the new administration of the United States is wishing to participate. So that's all those dynamics will play in the settlement, how it will reach out. So I don't know. I mean, now, as you know, the Houthis are realities. I mean, we can't say that they're not there. Will they give up? I don't think so. So what solution can be put on the table? I mean, is it a deal? Is it an international deal that trying to wrap everything up inside that deal? And that will cause another circle of violence all the time in Yemen, and instability, or will it will be like a mix between speeding up the process of reaching that settlement, but recognizing the difficulties, the internal difficulties, and trying to bring them on the table and trying to discuss them. So now this is the shape of what will happen in 2021, or maybe we won't reach that level. So it all depends. It's a step by step. We'll see how it goes. But there's new realities that we have to deal with and find solution.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Ali. To wrap it up, your thoughts. A question to Labib or Ustad Amr.
I don't have any more questions. Thanks for all the guys who joined us today. And I hope we can repeat, this session next time, because it was very rewarding today. I heard a lot of views, and we touched sensitive points, and we want to expand. We want to hear more voices, more in this, in the center of the issue that we have talked about today.
Right. But again, thank you very much, Ustad Amr. Thank you very much, Ustad Labib. Thank you for hanging in there for this long version of our episode. We really appreciate your time. It's morning in New York. It's evening in the region. Definitely, this is part of what Ali and I want to bring to the outside world, not just to Yemenis. We want to bring to non-Yemeni audiences, Yemenis sharing their views, Yemenis, disagreeing, but, agreeing to disagree in a way. And for me, as an outsider, my main interest is this, how do we get this conflict to end? How do we get 75% of the population to not starve in the next 12 months with aid? How do we get stability and economic development in the South? in order to, alleviate the grievances in the population, which is technically the minority population. We have to. This is reality, but yet it is the vast, portion of the country. This is where the territory is. This is where the largest coastline is in the south. So definitely, thank you very much. Any last thoughts from either one of you? Feel free to say any closing remarks.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity, Fernando and Ali, and wishing you all the best in this new Diwan podcast, and we hope to see you. More and more, and we come together.
Thank you, Ustad. Thank you, Labib.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Fernando. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Amr, and Mr. Nasser from Sana'a. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a good day, gentlemen. Ali. Bye-bye. Ali, we have to close it up. Thank you. Give me a minute, Ali. So thank you very much, Mr. Amr. Thank you. Ali, so great stuff. We went beyond what we wanted to. Can't hear you yet. Yeah, definitely more than we wanted, more than we expected, and we really appreciate the time that our guests gave us today. We really hope that we brought issues to the forefront here, to the surface, discussion, and show that there is so much to discuss in coming weeks, coming months. If we really want to see peace talks again in Yemen.
Yes, I like the collection of the guests today, the variety of the guests. It was very, very nice. We heard different voices. We heard from experienced people, from youngsters, from people who were in charge with the youth revolution, from people outside. It was very good collection.
Exactly. And I think Mr. Amr, Ustad Amr really brings up, the realities today that from our theme of looking at the structure of power, that, there are new realities on the ground. And Labib agrees that this isn't 2011 anymore, where, independents can sneak in kind of into the halls of power and participate. Unfortunately, maybe that's step number 2 or that's step number 3. But at the beginning, the warring parties are the ones that need to sit together and agree on a peace agreement, come together and join.
Yeah, Fernando, I hope we can repeat such session and host someone from the special envoy office,
right?
To join us. It would be like very, very excellent, because
right.
We want also to hear from them.
Yeah. And just as the 10 years of the Arab Spring come up, we didn't really discuss the GCC initiative itself from November 2011, but we have to highlight that indeed, in fact, the Houthis did not sign the GCC agreement of 2011. Iraq did not. Whether STC didn't exist, but Iraq didn't sign. This was just a deal between Al-Mu'tamar, represented by the President, Ali Abdullah Saleh, and the JMP, the Joint Meeting Parties, with Islah, the Ishtirakis, the Socialists. And it was their power sharing. It was the power structure making a deal with itself.
Yeah, between them, yeah.
To survive, to co-opt the ambitions of the independence, of the youth. And the international community played a role in that. We have to admit that the international community played a role in maintaining this power structure until 2014.
Yeah, as Mr. Amr al-Baydh said, the situation is totally different now.
Right, and for me, to put it together in a box, we can't anymore, because this is definitely outside the box. There's a need to think outside the box if we want a new peace agreement. And this is why I'm very critical of the UN sticking to the word, to the letter of the GCC initiative of 2011, and not, deviating from that. Even the Riyadh agreement. Even the Riyadh agreement is framed within that box, right? It's put in that box of the GCC agreement.
Yes. They are trying, to keep sticking to the GCC and the political Security Council resolution,
right.
But this will not work,
right,
Fernando. And everybody knows this, but they don't want to act.
To accept it, right? And my thing is that I want to keep pushing. I want to keep pushing Yemeni political figures. I want to keep pushing them in asking them time and time again, okay, what's the alternative?
Yes.
Have the Yemeni parties proposed an alternative to this box? Will the SDC, now that they're represented, now that they're legitimized and recognized within the GCC initiative framework, will they propose a new path forward, or is it that the Houthis having the leverage, and let's say they have the most leverage on the ground politically, etc. Can they dictate the alternative? Should they dictate the alternative? Or is it still up to President Hadi to be creative and come up with a solution? Or is it now up to Riyadh to come up with a new solution, a new GCC? I've pushed since 2015. I've said time and time again that there has been a need for a GCC initiative too, which means a new concept.
This is the core problem, Fernando. So we need to come up with a new initiative. We need new tools, as Amr Ali said. We need new tools that suit the situation now.
Right. That address the issue, the reality now, right? The GCC addressed the situation, the reality of 2011, right? But now it's a different reality, as our guests pointed out throughout. And it will be very interesting to see what we see this year, 2021. Do we see the same mistake? Insanity is, defined by doing the same thing over and over and over and over, expecting a different result. 2021, in my opinion, should be the year of creativity, should be the year of proposing new alternatives, new mechanisms that bring the parties together. Now that we have this Houthi FTO listing, now we have this line that the humanitarian situation will worsen in the coming weeks. We're still waiting to see what President Biden does regarding that FTO. And really, when you look at the South, you see protests still in Aden for salaries. So the economic situation in Aden is still not solved, even though it's the interim capital of the republic now. So now.
And we'll tell you something today, Fernando. My little kids came back from school telling me that teachers will start striking back again from tomorrow. They are not going to school anymore from tomorrow.
Right. This is Sunday the 24th, January 24th. Right.
So, new circle. The government is here, but nothing has been done so far.
Right. Yeah, and now we can imagine what's going on in Abiyan, right? Or in Shabwa, or in Hadramaut, Mahra, Socotra, with the economy.
The same thing.
So we have a lot to discuss, and we thank you, our listeners, our viewers.
Fernando, I think the next episode we have to shed light on this. What has the government has done since it came back from Riyadh? Because it is
definitely we're going to do we want to do 100-day, an episode looking at the first 100 days of the coalition government, right? Of the new government. So we'll definitely, we're tracking all of this. We're going to wrap it up in an episode, and we have to think of who we're going to invite in order to help us discuss these issues, because definitely it's going to be important. My friend, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for helping us organize this little episode. We hope the conversation continues. We hope to read more comments. We want to thank everyone that's following us on Facebook. We want on Twitter, on our YouTube channel. We love your comments. We want to hear more conversation. Please feel free to send us any comments that you may have and suggestions, obviously on shows. But so far so good. Thank you very much, Ali. Have a good evening.
Thank you so
we'll
much.
Talk soon.
Have a good day.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's see you soon.
Thank you for sure. Thank you.